Okay, thank you for being here. This evening we'll start on time so we can respect your time. But tonight, your presence here signifies your importance for public education along with safety and security within our school district. From a leadership's perspective, it is my role to make certain that safety is one of the greatest priorities within this organization in order to protect the working conditions of our adults and our employees, at the same time making certain that we protect our students every single day within Clay County District Schools. From my side, the reason I decided to go on the road to do some listen and learn opportunities at every one of the feeder patterns, and I know that tonight we merged Middleburg here with this evening with Ridgeview, was to really begin to have conversations with our community about what we can do to better our structures, policies, and our designs related to safety within every one of our schools. We know that Parkland, Florida has redefined the way we do business as it relates to not only locally in Clay County, but throughout the state and also throughout the nation. And it is unfortunate that Parkland has pushed us to think differently in our emergency management plans along with our crisis management plans. But it's our job to make sure that we were continuously refining that work in order to make certain that we have stronger processes and procedures for Clay County District Schools. I will tell you the additional reason was for me to really link to connecting to every one of our stakeholders, our parents, our caregivers, our business partners, and our students and our teachers, so that I can hear your voice and making us, assisting us with growing our initiatives to ensure that you also understand the new legislators around safety and security within our school district in order to make better decisions at a district level that can better assist schools every single day. But I had an opportunity about 1 month ago to participate in Channel 4's Generation Under Fire initiative. This is where they involved and introduced a forum for surrounding county superintendents in the Northeast Florida area along with sheriffs, also along with caregivers, mental health specialists, parents, and students. And in this initiative, they invited 20 students, and before we started this 2-hour-long conversation between many stakeholders, Ken Justice, who was the moderator for Channel 4, asked the 20 students for each of them to raise their hand if they felt that they were safe at school. And initially, no one raised their hand. And while we didn't have individuals from Clay County in attendance, you know what, I really felt, put myself in the shoes of surrounding county superintendents, and I really had a part of ownership in the sense that just because Clay County students weren't present, doesn't mean that our students don't feel this way. So I really took that personal. I took it personal that I can do a better job articulating what we're actually doing as a school district, and to be able to explain actions that we have accomplished and completed, what's in actual progress as it relates to safety in our structures, at the same time what the vision is related to creating a respectful environment in every one of our schools. At the end of the 2 hours, through multiple conversations and lens through sheriff's departments, partnership with law enforcement, along with superintendents and mental health specialists, Ken Justice at the end asked the students to raise their hands again if they felt safe. And at the end of the day, 90% of the students who were in attendance raised their hand. And that just told me that we haven't done a good job from the top down, and I say that respectfully, to engage our caregivers, our parents, our community members, and our educators to say, you know what, these are the steps that we're actually taking. The students just didn't know. They didn't know everything that was taking place in the school district. While we were working, the school districts were working really diligently to harden structures, really diligently to put better processes in place. Students didn't understand the avenues in which we were taking. So, I own that process as superintendent, knowing that we can continue to grow and get better. Hence the reason that we are on the road, being able to go with staff to articulate exactly what we're doing from the school district and what our vision is related to safety and security within Clay County. But I will tell you, as it relates to Parkland, I talked about how it has changed the way that we do business. No student, no teacher, no staff member should ever experience such a horrific event. And it's an unfortunate event that has happened, and we will do everything that we can to make certain that we protect every one of our assets in our school district and our community every single day. Therefore, I wanted to make certain tonight with overall objectives that we talk about the state of schools, the state of safety in our school district. In addition, talk about the action steps that we are taking as Clay County as an organization. and then really go to a point where we speak to the new legislation that has impacted our school district and what that vision is related to that new legislation, which is Senate Bill 7026, and then finally have some community question and answers that you may ask of us or our panel or our team members, so we can help you have a better understanding of the direction in which we are going and what steps we are taking as a school district. Coming in 17 months ago, there's a number of items that we elected to move forward and change, and that was our entire body of work. And as superintendent, we had to have a blueprint that would allow us to accomplish great goals with increase in students' academic performance, their social, intellectual performance, in the way that they behave not only within our classrooms, but also in our common areas and outside of our classrooms. And we built this theory of change, which allowed us to drive the work in the school district. And as you can see, the big arrow focuses on a progression of the first tier, and it progresses all the way down to the last and final tier, which ultimately our overall goals is to make certain that our students are prepared to become full option graduates, in the sense that our students are ready to compete at the collegiate level, to go to college, to attend the military, or go to the workforce. And our job is to overall create that experience where we are preparing students for successful progression in one of those options and help them build a pathway in order to be successful, and not only locally, but also throughout the state and nationally, and to be able to compete nationally. But overall, to say the foundation of our work is to make certain that we have a positive learning environment focused on communities, in the sense that we're making certain that we have a safe learning environment for every school and every classroom, for every teacher and every student every single day. And we know that if we build that capacity and we focus on having a disruption-free environment, then we can transition to the next phase, which in the next phase is developing great educators and great leaders within the school district. And if we do that, we really have to focus on better retention strategies, better staffing strategies, in order to retain the great teachers in the school district and compensate them in a way that's attractive to keep them within our classrooms and keep our best and brightest in front of our students. We also know we have to really focus on building the capacity of our leaders, to make sure that they know how to be a partner in this work with our teachers, to work side by side to identify best practices, to identify lessons, to problem solve, and to be able to create the best experience potentially and possibly in every one of our schools. And we know if we do that, we'll be able to create the best environment as it relates to demanding, to ensure that we have a rigorous curriculum in every one of our classrooms and in front of every one of our students. And that is the third tier. We can really focus on, we have a great organization that's built on safety and respect. Then we focus on building the capacity of teachers and educators and administrators and support staff. Then we can really focus on making certain that the third tier is that we have the right curricula in place for every student, in every content, and every single day, where they have a rich, rigorous opportunity that pushes our kids to cognitively think and pushes them to the cognitive demands, so that they can be successful, not only to meet grade level expectations, but they go beyond grade level expectations as well. And then finally, as I started out, our ultimate goal is to prepare our students to become full option graduates. But none of this can be done or implemented without making certain that the first tier is the greatest priority, is to making certain that we have a respectful and safe environment for every one of our learners. As it relates to our district priorities, please know that safety will always be one of our greatest priorities, as I said earlier. But you need to understand that safety is just not linked and cannot be solely isolated to school. It is a community effort. This is where we have to really think differently about how our community engages safety from a mentality perspective. We need to make certain that we understand that while we will do everything we can in the school district to ensure that we have visibility and accessibility of staff, it goes beyond into our neighborhoods and it goes beyond to our dinner table. And I spoke last week about the dinner table scenario. So often we're so busy with our lives and so engaged with what's going on, we don't get a chance and an opportunity to have the 6 o'clock dinners with our students and our family members and our parents. Oftentimes I said last week that we wait in that 20-minute line at Chick-fil-A and we order that number 2 when we wait so long. When we get home, that bag our children grab that bag and they run directly to their room, or they run directly in front of a TV in the living room. We don't create the option to sit at home and really think and talk about their experiences of the day. I can tell you, me growing up in high school and in junior high school as well, in elementary, through my educational experience, at 6:30 my butt was at the dinner table with my parents. And I had 4 other siblings. We knew that at 6:30, no matter what you were doing, you need to be sitting ready to rock and roll. Because my parents every day were going to ask me, how was your day? What did you learn? What was going on? Did you have any, what were your positive interactions? What were your negative interactions? What can I help you? What barriers are you experiencing? What can I help remove for you, Addison? Those conversations happen all the time. And I'm guilty too, and this is my challenge to each of you as caregivers and as parents as well, is to make opportunities and create opportunities to have conversations with your children and create the conversations at the dinner table, and where you can be actively engaged and involved. I say this because it's unfortunate we're at a part where we are discussing whether or not we're putting metal detectors in schools. It's unfortunate to discuss whether or not we're going to arm educators in our schools as well. And here we have to do a better job as a community to really look and determine what the root causation is of student behaviors, disorders, or violence. What's going on within our school, within our students' lives, and what can we do in order to help them be successful? And I can tell you openly is that it can't happen in isolation with a school. We have so many resources at our schools that our teachers are ready and available for our students every single day, and they work tremendously along with our support staff. But we have to create an opportunity where this entire community wraps our arms around our youth, because these are the individuals that are supposed to change the world, and they have all the capabilities and capacity to do so. They're just going to take nurturing and mentorship from each of us in order to make that happen. And then finally, we have to create a psychologically safe place for every one of our students within Clay County. This is essential that I create a superintendent, a workplace at each school that is safe and respectful, where students can learn, where teachers can teach, and employees can work to support the robust learning cultures and activities and conditions within our school district. And that is my job and my vision for the work. As it relates to safety throughout our nation, these are threats that have occurred since February the 14th. This is information that you can see that the department has brought a heightened awareness as it relates to safety and security issues in our schools, along with a number of copycat threats. Since then, we see that over 1,000 threats have taken place since February the 14th, in which is ultimately averaging 74 to 75 per week. And you can see over 1,300 schools have been impacted by these types of threats. And we can say that over findings throughout the nation, 48% of these threats have been made through social media. And why I firmly believe that social media has revolutionized the way that we do work, and it's brought a number of positive implications, the way that we view ourselves, the way we view others, the way we work throughout our business. It's also openly and honestly created negative implications within our community. Some of you growing up, and I'm guilty, is that I didn't have all this, the Twitter accounts, the Facebook account. I had a pager, okay? And you couldn't send me, you could send messages, that's it, no photos, nothing else. So with this said, we have got to do a better job as caregivers and stakeholders to be actively engaged in our students. At 9 o'clock at night, I can tell you I have a 17-year-old that's a junior at Oakleaf High School. I have a 12-year-old that's a 6th grader at Oakleaf Junior High School. At 9 o'clock at night, they know it's phone time. That means they bring their phone to my wife, and my wife goes to their cookie jar. Everything they do. They don't have Facebook. My oldest daughter has a Twitter account only because she has to actively engage and keep her college coach updated on what she's doing. But they don't have these social medias. They don't have Instagram or any of these items. But my wife is continuously looking through their text messages, looking through their interactions, and you may say that's we're infringing on their rights, and what we're doing is we're not trying to be our children's best friend, we're trying to be our children's best parents. And that's what I ask of each of you to do in order to move forward. So social media, while there's a lot of great things that's happening, there's a lot of negative implications that it brings to us as well, that we have to do a better job actively involved to what's happening with our kids. And I would tell you this, it's easy for, I use the analogy of having a pager. It's easy for our kids, we're seeing all these threats happen on social media, because it's easy for them to send a undesired communication to another peer or to an individual that's not their friend, because they don't have to sit face to face to see that individual's reaction. It's very easy to hide behind threats. I can send, I can say this about you, Addison, but I don't have to see your immediate reaction to it. I don't. So it's easier to hide behind threats and hide behind words. But we have to coach our students that they are master of their words, because once they speak them, the words are a master of them. And they own, and Dr. Kim always says as well, there's always a consequence and there's always an unintended consequence. And the only reason I bring this up because we have to do a better job to be involved in what's happening on the social media platforms, because there's so many different avenues our kids can actively engage in and push out. In addition, there was 20% were involved with verbals, and 12.5% were found in the areas of restrooms that were just standalone threats within the school districts. As it relates to Clay County, to make sense of this, we've had 5 threats to date, and of those 5 threats, it engaged 4 students and 1 adult. One adult, this is involved with 2 that were at Oakleaf in the Oakleaf area, and 2 that were in the Keystone area, and 1 that was in the Fleming Island area. I don't brag on this portion of it, but all 5 were arrested. And as my job as superintendent is to break the prison to pipeline mentality. But however, I will tell you that as a school district, we will not address or tolerate. We will not tolerate, any threats that were made within this organization. We stand ready to be partnered with law enforcement, and this unacceptable behavior will be addressed in a swift and a proactive manner. Of this, of the 5 threats that were made, and 4, like I said, 4 were students and 1 was adult, and it was impacted for school. And 60% of these threats were found in a written fashion, and 40% were found in social media, and 3 out of 5 were found on campus in writing. And the one that was an adult that posted it on Fleming Island was during spring break. And luckily no one was there on campus, and luckily we had a great surveillance camera in order to identify that individual, in order to work with law enforcement and take swift action. I only bring this to your attention so you understand the impact we've had thus far in Clay County. As it relates to Senate Bill 7026 legislation, where we are fortunate enough that legislators were in session during Parkland, even though it's a horrific act. We are fortunate that they were in session, that way they can carve out funding in order to better assist the school district with securing our properties and also putting funding in for mental health. But what they did is they found $400 million to safety and security in order to improve our practices in education. With this said, they identified a Guardian program, and the Guardian program is one of the initiatives. While this Senate bill requires that we place a resource officer at every one of our schools moving forward for the 18-19 school year, if you did not have the funding to do so, you could participate in the Guardian program. The Guardian program allows schools to identify non-teachers to be actively involved in carrying concealed weapons to protect our students. This could be administrators, it could be support staff, and they would have to go through extensive training with the sheriff's office. Our school board made it very clear over the last 2 weeks that this is not an initiative that they want to participate in, and that we will move forward in reference to making certain that we work collectively with the county commission along with the sheriff's office to put a resource officer in every one of our schools to identify appropriate funding to do so. We're working at that stage today. We started again today with the board, and we'll continue to work in the next couple of days in order to identify what we can do. In addition, this creates additional funding for resource officers. And I'll go over historically what we received financially here in a minute to show you what additional fundings were given in order to expand this initiative. We also create an Office of School Safety at the Department of Education, who will help us with threat assessment teams, will help us with intruder observations, will help us making certain that we have a district specialist to help coach to make sure we're taking the right steps and the right training mechanisms with our crisis and emergency management plan, so we can better understand our work and we can better turnkey that at the school level. And it also, for the first time ever, provides extended funding for mental health, which is a beautiful aspect, because if you understand what happened in Parkland, while it was a student that was expelled, the student was expelled and didn't have any services. So while I'm all for creating really stand strong recommendations for those who make threats, we just can't send kids out and expel them to the community, and you see what the outcome was. We've got to figure out how to break the undesired behaviors that were exhibited by students, and that's going to be through the behavior and mental health perspective, and this will allow us to have additional fundings to do so. And then it allows us the last one, school hardening. The funding was made available for school hardening. We will be getting guidelines for this information. It's going to be a grant that every school district has to apply for. The criterion for this grant will be submitted to school districts in August of 2018, and the deadline for submission will be December 2018. I will tell you that our school district is working rigorously to do assessment analysis of every one of our schools, to be able to identify what steps we need to do in order to have better controls and better structures to support hardening our districts. The only reason I bring this to you is so to educate you of what the Senate Bill 7026 brings to us as school district. I openly want to tell you why I'm appreciative of the money. It's underfunded. These are underfunded mandates, and hence the reason why I'm here to talk and have conversations with community members, to continue to have conversations with Sheriff Daniels and local law enforcement, along with having conversations with our school board members so we can make an informed decision as we launch the 18th school year by August. From a financial perspective, Safe Schools money, we got last year $580,000 from Safe Schools. This money went to resource officers for every one of our high schools, along with Bannerman Learning Center. As you can see, in 18-19, we are picking up an additional $1.3 million with a total of $1.8 million. However, as it relates to making certain that we have resource officers in every one of our schools, we need a minimum of an additional $3 million. I will tell you that that's a lot of money in a school district where the legislators gave us a new budget for 18-19, and the only thing they gave us was 47 cents per student. So giving us $17,000 overall is not really going to help us with this initiative. So we are in a spot from the school district to look at additional revenue. After the board met today, they are going to propose it to the community, and I openly will tell you, as an additional revenue stream. They're seeking to put in front of the voters in Clay County and the constituents of Clay County to increase the millage rate by 1, and that impact will be $100 per household. And all that money will be linked to safety and security within our school district to pay for resource officers in order to harden structures and looking at operating costs as well internally. I tell you that because a decision was just made today to put that on the May agenda, and for that to be put by the board to be pushed and extended to every one of our community members to make certain that we have a focus on safety within our community. As you look at it, we talk about infrastructure upgrades. This is $12 million for us to have an immediate impact, to make sure we have sufficient surveillance, to make sure we have single points of entry, to make sure that we have fencing. This is just to get us off the ground. This is nowhere the end all that we have through our needs assessment, and Dr. Kemp may be able to speak to it. We have found the need assessments to this county to be over $250 million worth of needs as it relates to our buildings and our infrastructures in Clay County. And this because our infrastructures, our buildings have an average age of, what is it, Doc?
47 years.
Yeah, 47 years of age is the average age of our schools, and the infrastructure has been deferred for so many years. We can no longer not be able to address to make sure that we have a competitive environment for our kids, and they have all of the state-of-the-art and comparative resources to be successful from a classroom and a programmatic perspective. As it relates to mental health, first time ever, we will get $926,000. This will allow us to continue to expand our assistance related to school counselors, school psychologists, and to look at the new initiatives that we can bring to this community to better help our students and better direct services for not only for our students, but also to link it out to our families in need as well. And then we will have a community partnership school. We launched that in the Wilkinson Junior High School area. I'll speak to you a little bit later about what that entails, and we seek to launch that into in the north part of the county, and potentially in the south part of the county, in the Orange Park, in the Keystone area as well as we move forward. But all this to show you is that these are underfunded mandates, and we've got to figure out how we're going to address them collectively as a community. I bring this data to show you ultimately we are really a safe environment. We provide safe environments within the Ridgeview feeder pattern, and also I'll do the Middleburg feeder pattern next. This shows the average number of referrals per student on campus, and we clearly see a decrease related to referrals over a 3-year trend. We have, I'm sorry if you can't see it, but you have a gray bar here. You're supposed to see a gray bar. And then the next year, and then this is 16-17, this is 17-18. We do see, and this is related to number of referrals and related to enrollment, you do see we have one uptick here related to Dr. Zinlin, and then we also here at Wilkinson Junior High School. But overall, we see a decline in number of referrals that are happening within our school district, and this is greatly contributed to the student engagement part. We have greater student engagement, we have greater accountability, we have more resources for teachers to help them teach from bell to bell, and we have better accessibility to our kids internally within our school district. As it relates to the Middleburg feeder pattern, we have declined in every one of the schools in the Middleburg feeder pattern, other than, once again, Wilkinson Junior High School, which we have placed in community partnership schools in order to provide additional resources for that school and to address students in need within that schools. But once again, this is a clear indication that we are moving in the right direction. If you see the district in the last 3 years, we have a really safe environment as it relates to our kids in the organization. The next one is suspension. It's hard to see it with this. Sorry, I'll get a new bulb for you. I promise. I'll get you a new bulb. You see that, sorry, we just spent money right there. That bulb's probably $500. We need a new one. So you see this is related to our in-school suspension and out-of-school suspension ratios. The solid bars are in-school suspension, and I can't really see it. These squiggly bars are out-of-school suspension. Overall, once again, you see a pattern of trended downward, other than in one school, which we will address, and we are working to address Wilkinson. But once again, we see that this feeder pattern is continuing to decline in the number of in-school suspension and out-of-school suspension. That means we're doing a better job of keeping kids in school when they break code of conduct infractions, and keeping them in order to gain access to them so they can continue the momentum instructionally. Once again, this is the Middleburg progression as well. We continue to see a downward slide in-school suspension along with out-of-school suspension, and this is just the hard work of our teachers and our administrators, creating expectations and having consequences and being mentors to our students to make sure they're making the right decisions every single day inside and outside the classroom, along with in common areas. This next graph is a totality of all of the arrests that have taken place within our school district. Please know that these arrests are from the Sheriff's Office. It doesn't mean that these arrests happened on our campuses, but they happen and involve our youth. And this is where you see that we are continuing to decline the number of arrests other than one school, a number of arrests that we've had in previous years over a 5-year trend. You can see it, the blue going to the green, and we continue to decrease overall. But this is greater focus. We have resource officers in our high schools that are building relationships with our kids. We have greater partnership with law enforcement. And once again, we continue to see that we are problem solving with our youth and letting them know, to coach them to make the right decisions every single day, and that there are consequences to every one of their actions involved. So what is Clay County doing in reference to our body of work? What have we completed to date? These are all items that we have done thus far as relates to creating a strong environment. We have updated we have updated the operating procedures relates to address campus emergency events. We are working every single day to continue to refine the emergency management and crisis management plans within our school district. We have color-coded flip charts for accessibility for protocols in our schools, so teachers and educators understand what to do, when to do, related to if they're addressed to a weather drill, if they're addressed to an intruder drill. They know what actions to take. We have a visitor management system called Raptor in every one of our schools, where an individual that seeks to gain access to our schools, they have to run their ID. That ID gives us an immediate indicator whether or not volunteers, business partners, stakeholders, parents can have access to our kids, and it tells us immediately if they cannot, and then we use that thoroughly every single day. Well, since Parkland, after 2 hours of the Parkland event, I sent a communication to every individual within Clay County District Schools to tell them to lock exterior gates at the district level and school level, also to lock exterior doors, and also to lock interior doors. We are continuing to coach children not to open doors. They're just trying to be respectful, but we want to make certain that we have adults that are opening the doors and opening doors for individuals that are wearing this badge, such as the one I'm wearing. I get a hard time wearing my badge every single day, but I want to model the behaviors that I expect every one of the individuals in this organization to wear to create a safe environment within our school district. And then also we've already worked to make sure we have single points of entry for parents and for volunteers and for business partners and district personnel. That way that we can go ahead and use that Raptor system to scan your identification and then grant you access to the remainder of the school district, of the schools as needed. In addition, we continue to leverage behavior and mental health individuals within our school district. As I talked about, school counselors, school psychologists, and then we have outside agencies as well that stand with us and partner with us to address every one of our kids in need. And then we're looking, we have directed faculty, and I'm talking about administrative staff, to review the new procedures in emergency management plan with our teachers and our students or directly after Parkland, so that we can continue to coach our students and our stakeholders on what actions to take if ever addressed with an unfortunate situation. And then at the same time, we continue, I'm sorry that it doesn't bring it up, but we continue our students to do a great job here in Clay County. If they see something, hear something, say something. Most of the tips that we've received through social media or that we have found, students have found in the restroom or on desk. They have come to us and they've identified the origin of the threat. So our students are doing a great job continuing to keep us in the loop to educate our administrators in order to start that investigative process. So what is in progress for our school district? In progress as it relates to safety, we are going to continue to increase security, monitoring, and cameras and surveillance within the school district. It was fortunate enough that we were able to have the surveillance in place for Fleming High in order to identify the individual who made the threat within 24 hours, working with law enforcement. We are refining the number of complete fire drills, lockdown, and weather drills in the school district to increase that number. We are increasing visibility and accessibility of law enforcement. Since Parkland, you should see a greater visibility and accessibility to resource officers who are within the community circulating, and also for those who are on campus as well. We want to make sure that their partnership is continuing to be strong with us. And I would tell you that the Clay County Sheriff's Office has been really awesome with providing the chief divers, providing employees where needed to address any situation that we need. If we need additional assistance out of school or something's happened in the community, they're always there to help us and assist us to start and initiate that investigation process. And then we continue to refine our emergency management and crisis management plans as a progress monitoring aspect. As we continue to get feedback from our stakeholders and feedback from best practices and policies from DOE and also from our practitioners, we will continue to update that information to make sure that we have solid plans that are pushed out every single day. And then we will conduct we are conducting school assessments to identify our needs, to figure out what type of funding do we need in order to create single points of entry, to create fencing and to block off accessibility areas of our schools in order to create deterrents for individuals who decide they want to come on campus and create harm. So what do we see for the future? Future is for us to look at hardening structures. What do we need to do? It talks about, as I said, looking at whether or not we have additional needs for fencing, to look at metal detectors from a portable perspective, to look at switches in the classroom. I know this is a visionary work, and Doc doesn't like me to talk about it, but because it's extremely expensive. But I really like to have an indicator for every one of our teachers to have accessibility where they push a button and directly links and communicates with fire rescue, or you push a button and it directly links to law enforcement. That way, there's not a middleman in that process, because every second counts. So we want to be able to have that direct connection to our law enforcement and our resource officers. I will tell you, it's really expensive to do. But I know Doc can help me find that money in the long run as we seek to. We probably will go to the community to create this opportunity. But we also got to have a resource officer in every one of our schools for 18-19. As I said, we're trying to find $3 million to make that happen, to be aligned with state statute if we're not going to participate in the Guardian program. And then we will establish a crisis and bullying hotline for all stakeholders and students to engage and report any incidents they may have, so we can start that investigative process as well. And then looking at for 18-19, we will develop a behavior and mental health plan that we will present to the board that will show how we will use the additional resources that we have received from the state, while also leveraging the resources that we currently have within our school district. And then we will establish a district threat assessment team that will be on board and be able to address any threats and respond to any threats as relates to the situations for intruders as well. From our side, we have conducted over 350 drills as a school district. That's inclusive of lockdown, intruder, weather drills, and fire drills. We have updated our training modules to our administrators, and they have turnkeyed that with the teachers and students as well. For 18-19, one things that we will continue to have professional development for summer for our administrators that goes deeper about the steps we ask them them to take as leaders of their schools, so they can turnkey that with every one of their faculty and staff members during pre-planning, and then ultimately mandated training within the first 2 weeks of school to every one of our students about how they interact with a lockdown drill, how they interact with an intruder drill, a fire drill, and a weather drill, all inclusive, so they know exactly what steps to take if ever had to take those actions. And also there will be mandated drills conducted for the first 30 days. And then as a school district, we will create a team that will go in isolation of all the drills, because we expect every school will have 7 fire drills, 4 lockdown drills, and 2 severe weather drills per year. We will have a team that goes over and beyond that we will go and circulate and do unannounced drills. These drills are not for I gotcha moment, but it's more for us to see if our processes and our systems and our policies are being implemented, and do they need to be adjusted. And it's for us to work with law enforcement to complete these drills, to provide extensive feedback to our schools about how they can get better, and what actions they can take moving forward, so that we are prepared. From a behavioral standpoint, what have we completed internally within our school district? Every school has school counselors, and many of these trained in mental health. They have accessibility to kids. Also, we developed a district crisis intervention team to respond to any crisis, within our school district, and that team is ready and prepared. And we continue to leverage the social workers, school psychologists, along with our district level specialists to help with behavior disorders or mental health assistance. We have a nurse in every one of our schools. That is an accomplishment, because historically around the nation, usually you don't have that 1-to-1 ratio. Usually you have one nurse that services 5 schools, and they go to a different school every single day. So Clay County has a beautiful model with the nurses that are ready and available for every one of our schools. And then we also have an employee assistance program to assist with any of our employees and adults, so they can focus on wellness as well, and trying to help them. But we have beautiful partnerships in our community. We have Clay Behavior, we have Right Path and Children's Home Society that continue to be a partner in our work in this domain. What do we see for progression in progress or going to be planned? We launched 3 months ago to put motivational coaches in every one of our junior high schools. Right now we have them in 3 junior high schools, and we're trying to close it out by the start of 18-19 to have all 6 of our junior high schools to have motivational coaches. These individuals are working with cohorts of students between 75 and 100 students at a time, who exhibit undesired behaviors related to attendance, academics, and behavior. So we use early warning indicators to identify these students and to help them continue to progress academically, intellectually, and socially. We know that in junior high school and middle school, the students, they mentally drop out, but when they get to high school, they physically drop out. So what can we do to break that cycle and to break that mentality? And it's through putting additional resources in schools. We also put the community partnership structure at Wilkinson Junior High School, and we look to expand that next year, which is at another school, through the work of Mr. McCauley, the Assistant Superintendent of Climate and Structure, the Culture and Climate. And these are where we have nonprofit business organizations, faith-based partners to bring services into our schools and to provide assistance to the entire community. These are to address barriers such as medical barriers, the hunger barriers, mental health barriers, counseling and healthcare, and also those who've been exposed to potential crime or violent interactions. And I give you a perfect example. If you understand where 218 is, and with the Wilkinson Junior High School and Elementary in Clay Hill, they don't have accessibility to healthcare doctors or to mental health cares. So what we're doing is partnering with a number of nonprofit organizations to put the health care and the mental health care and the needs, and whether the kid needs to see a doctor, a kid needs to have a vision checked, all that hubbed at the school, so that the kids can have service at the school at the same time, be serviced at the same time, be put back in the classrooms, that we can maximize their time on task. So if they can't get to it on that corridor, we are providing those options and that opportunity through our business partnership at our school, which we hope to grow. And Mrs. Cornwell is excited for the implementation, and we're excited to continue to launch that. We also look to incorporate social emotional learning content within our curriculum to help the learner. We know that we have got to do a better job pretty much from the pre-K to 3rd grade, refining social emotional learning, how we teach students and coach students at a young age, how they interact with their peers, how they interact with their curriculum, how they interact with adults, so that we can have a systemic approach as they progress through the end of elementary into junior high school and high school. You all know if you're in junior high school and high school, it's very hard to change and reform practice of our young adolescents. So we want to get them at a younger age to address them earlier, and this is our initiative to do so. And then we will make certain that we launch the youth mental health first aid training. We did a soft launch this year with some of our teachers. We will grow that to every one of our administrators in the summer, and then we will open that up to teachers and potentially partner with law enforcement for our resource officers as well, where this training really introduces the common mental health challenges in our youth, and those who are exposed to anxiety, those who are exposed to depression, those who are exposed to substance abuse or behavior disorders. This is where teachers and administrators and staff are able to have a heightened awareness of these indicators and really link students to immediate responses and to services to be preventative and have interventions in place prior to them getting to a point where they exhibit the behaviors that we don't want them to be involved in. And then we looked at mental health experts for 18-19, increasing that, and then potentially having full service schools. All this to say is that these are items that we have got to find and put in place to have additional revenues within the school district. We've got to make certain that we have additional lighting in common areas on the structures of every one of our campuses to create a safe environment. We've got to make sure that we have crisis management software that provides action steps for employees when confronted with a life-threatening event. We've got to make sure that we can increase the visibility by putting unarmed security guards on our campuses so they can identify individuals who should not be on our campus in a swifter and a quick manner and relay that to administration or law enforcement. We want to make sure that we have resource officers in every one of our schools, which is going to need for additional funding. We also want to have public announcement systems that not only work in classrooms, but also the externals in our courtyards, in our fields, in our parking lots, so that everyone can absolutely hear the vision in the message that's being sent out by our administrators. And then we want to make sure we have portable handheld devices to signal our teachers to law enforcement administration so they can signal information so we can take swift action as a school district. And then we want to continue to increase our software and capability of surveillance. Ultimately, the vision is for our surveillance to link directly into the law enforcement surveillance so they can watch at any point in time. They can watch what's going on in common areas so they know where to signal assistance and direction to address an intruder if ever exposed to that type of unfortunate event. And then looking at potential new lock-in mechanisms for our school district. And then we've got to figure out how to do a better job to protect portables. As you know, in Clay County, we have become portable city. We have we inherited, and Dr. Kemp had inherited over 900.
81.
Over 900, he said 981 portables in our school district. And you know what? And of those 981, 700 plus are 20 years of age or older. And so, for us to figure out proactive ways to secure those environments, it's going to be very difficult. I'm just being honest with you. So we've got to figure out what we can do to get it out of the business, portables that have better standalone structures so that our kids are not in that type of environment. And then ultimately create single points of entry every single day for our kids. So my job as superintendent is to prepare, prevent, respond, and recover. And my job is to make sure that we have the greatest crisis management, emergency management plans that we have in the state and throughout the nation, that we are prepared for it. My job is to prevent, to make sure I'm engaged in the community about behaviors, about cultures we expect within Clay County District Schools, and to make sure that you have a vision for what we're trying to accomplish as we prevent any situation that occurred in Parkland. My job is to respond. Mine is to actively engage community members, law enforcement staff, to be transparent about our guidelines and our expectations. And then finally, which is an extremely important mechanism, important component of this, is recover. How to review our plan continuously, how we interacted with a fire drill, intruder drill, or a situation. How do we rebuild our systems in order to make sure that we are effective every single day within Clay County District Schools. So now, this is enough about me talking about what we're doing, but I thought it was important for you to know all the steps that we are taking as a school district. So we've had cards when you came in. We're asking you to write down any question that you may have on your card. If you will hold that card up, I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. Hold that card, and I have staff that will come along and retrieve your question that you may have. I will answer all the questions along with my staff. We may have some questions because we're doing it on Facebook Live. This is why I'm wearing 32 microphones, so that we'll be able to ask any questions to respect their involvement as well for those who couldn't make it but are watching it through social media, so we can answer any questions that they may have as well. As you leave this evening, if you believe that you want to give some suggestions that you did not extend to us, you can do it. There's some post-it notes in the back that you can write on any suggestions you have for school safety, any suggestions that you'd like to see as it relates to mental health as well. But as I go from my left to right, as you're writing down questions, I'll let my staff introduce themselves and their involvement in this work. You can go ahead and start, Doc.
Hi, I'm Terry Stallman. I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum Instruction K-12.
And I'm Mike Kemp, Assistant Superintendent for Operations.
Michael McCauley, Assistant Superintendent for School Climate and Culture.
Bruce Harlan, Clay County Safety and Security Officer.
Thank you. Then we also have Chief Divers here who drives all the operation as it relates to our resource officers and does great work in this community. Okay. We'll start answering some questions. Just raise your hand if you while we're speaking, if you want to continue to write, and we'll address everything we can and as often and as honest as we can.
So here's the first question. Will you have staff and students wear ID badges like you do, Mr. Davis? Are students going to put their backpacks in their lockers?
Yeah, so the first question is about ID. Every one of our schools except for, and I say this from secondary perspective, except for 2 have the ID badges. So I'm working right now with the Chief of Secondary Education to make certain, especially at the junior high school and high school level, that not only do we have the equipment to do so, but that we wear them rigorously every single day as we launch into the 18-19 school year. It is very important for our students to wear their IDs. And because that's their single gatekeeper for how they scan for books, how they get their lunches, how they check out books in the media center, and how we really importantly identify them as for them to really be on campus every single day. As relates to their backpacks, right now it's not a common practice that they put backpacks within their lockers. We want them to be involved and have a backpack to carry their books every single day. Some of these books are very large, and they're going to multiple classrooms. Not all the times do we have times to go to our lockers in between every single period to go to class. So there'll be sometimes our students carry 2 books or at one time, and along with their notebooks, along with all their other stuff that they carry in their backpacks as they transition from class to class. I will tell you openly, we will increase the number of random searches that we have within the school district. So, we've got to make certain that, we're not going to put metal detectors at every one of our doors, because in this school you never have enough to do so. And we don't want it openly and honestly to feel like TSA that you're waiting 3 hours to get in school every single day or create that environment. What we will do is seek to purchase portable metal detectors for our administration, train them adequately in order to go around and do random searches in order to create awareness within our school district and to identify any objects that may be prohibited due through our code of student conduct.
Are students being taught about mental illness as it relates to bullying?
Right now we have, we do have some opportunity for social emotional learning curriculums in elementary. We do offer that. It's embedded within our core content. We will next year have a greater launch to this. We are trying to coach students at every single time how to make the right decisions, how to interact with each other, to make certain that they don't get to a point where they feel that they're being bullied or individual is bullying others and creating a poor environment. We know that, but we have to understand that bullying is really defined not from a single isolated event. It's defined for multiple infractions or comments or physical harm to a student that has a pattern of events that have accumulated as it relates to bullying. However, we want students immediately to tell us whether or not they feel that they've been exposed to harmful actions, whether it's from a verbal standpoint, social media standpoint, or physical standpoint, so that we can continue to coach and incorporate the right directions through restorative justice and restorative practice, the right mentalities within our school district. Professor, anything?
So to piggyback on the superintendent's comments, we are doing a number of different things throughout the school year to raise awareness, if you will. October is the National Bully Prevention Month, so that we have a variety of activities where kids are exposed to what that means, what that looks like, what it feels like, especially. May, coming up next month, is National Mental Health Month, so we have a variety of activities that are going to go on in terms of giving kids, particularly at 2 of our junior high schools where we're rolling it out this year. Last year it was 1 junior high. We're hoping to expand that continuously. Almost all of our schools are constantly engaged in these kinds of conversations, whether it's through some social emotional curriculum that's embedded within what they're doing inside the classroom, or specialized activities outside of that. But we know that, particularly in light of what happened in South Florida, we need to do more to really put that out there and help kids understand that better.
So in connection to that, if a student has shown a threat or has depression or other mental illness, will the school pay for therapy?
Ask that question again.
If a student has shown a threat, has depression or other mental illness, will the school pay for their therapy?
From our side, if it doesn't correlate and align with a student in need, who has a need and has either a 504 or an IEP process, we would not provide funding for additional extension for therapy. What we do is that there's a lot of partners that sit out there that are readily available, that we can link you to resources. They are ready to help you, any student that they feel that they are exposed to any anxiety or depression, or being exposed to any violent or criminal or violent activity that's created trauma for their lives. There's a lot of free resources that we can help the family extend to in order to help their children. That's right.
Yeah, I would add to that, therapies, you have to define that, because therapy takes on many different forms. Our school counselors that are in the buildings, to the extent that they're able to work with students one-on-one, that's a big deal for us. We do have school social workers, school psychologists. We have some mental health professionals who are actually on our staff, and we're looking to expand that next year. Our motivational coaches that are in 3 of our junior high schools, and soon to be all of them, they can certainly serve in some capacity to work with kids in a therapeutic type relationship. So we really have to define what therapy means. Many of our students with disabilities have been identified as needing true mental health therapy, and they're getting that as a function of their individual education plan. So there's a variety of ways that we can access therapeutic services for all of our kids, and we can be as creative as we need to be to make sure they get that.
Right, so we have so many opportunities internally through what Mr. McCauley talked about, accessible to kids. Anything that's extended to that, we can link resources to.
A backpack question. How do you feel about clear backpacks?
Right now that it's not openly, it's not on the agenda for 18-19. We haven't had a part where the problems in all the shootings have been individuals coming on campus, and the majority of those individuals don't even attend the school. So we haven't get to a part where it's a need right now within Clay County. If we get to a point where we have SAC committees and leaders and within individualized schools that would like to push that model, I'm open to the conversation, but it has not become a priority for 18-19. I think with our visibility in our random searches, that will help with what students actually bring, and then we can continue to create awareness in our schools and our classrooms.
This is a 3-part question about volunteers. 1, are all volunteers background checked?
Yes.
2, what is our policy of volunteers on campus and their access to campus? And 3, how do you address violations of volunteers on campus?
Yeah, so I'm not sure what violations for volunteers means or defined as, but I can tell you that every volunteer has to go through a background check in order to be able to be exposed to our students and also to our adults. So, and then they work collectively with the school to define what that volunteerism actually looks like. whether they're coming to mentor kids, whether they're coming to be a part of a project, whether they're coming to help in the cafeteria. It's based on what actual needs are from administration, and they will identify, what the needs are and have those schedules appropriately in allocation time with those individuals. Anything from a violation, if a volunteer comes and is grossly disrespectful to a student, grossly disrespectful to an adult, we will have those conversations and then we will address it. But from that side, I don't really know defined as what a violation will be. We will get to a point where every administrator in our school district has been trained to identify whether or not the volunteer is actually helping and moving in the right direction. And there's always coaching about what that individual can do, what the needs are from our schools. But if we get to a point where we believe that our relationship, it isn't moving forward in a certain area, moving the needle, causing more harm than progression, then we'll have that conversation about that individual to refine their work or place them in a better situation where they can be have greater success in.
Well, my instance was a volunteer that approached my child on school campus and verbally assaulted him and threatened him on school property.
Right.
But the school continues to allow her to volunteer at the school.
Okay, so I can address that individually.
Well, I was
Yeah.
waiting for a phone call on Friday, but I never got
No worries.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. So we'll address that this evening.
Sounds good.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, how are parents involved in your plan for securing environments?
Plans for secure environments. Well, the biggest thing is I need you to do me a favor and coach your children about to make sure that they go from point A to point B. So if your children walk to school, make sure that they're going immediately to our schools in order to help, in order for them to get to their classrooms that they need to. Coach them about at the point where if they feel that they're bullied or any situation, or they see something that's suspicious, to see something, to say something to our administrators, which they've done a great job. And then from a parent's perspective, we're asking you to be open when we come to you and talk and engage with you about additional revenue source in order to have better structures and to pay for resource officers within this community. But just really continue to be involved in your child's life and be a mentor for them.
Do you see administration in the future of choice schools being armed?
Administrators in choice schools.
In the future of Clay County schools being
Teachers.
armed?
Yeah, so right now, originally the Senate Bill 7026 allowed engaged teachers to be involved in carrying of concealed weapons. However, after great pushback from superintendents and leaders and from teachers as well, the bulk of teachers as well, they removed teachers from the Senate Bill 7026. So teachers no longer have the availability to carry. Any individual that has a full load or half a load and are engaged with students will not have accessibility to carry a weapon through the Guardian program. And I said openly, and I started this, it's not about putting more guns in the schools. And I say this openly is that we shouldn't be talking about arming teachers. Instead, that conversation should be arming teachers with more money, with inspiration, the resources they need in order to do their job better. So at this stage, I would tell you that it will not happen in the state of Florida due to the state statute. It doesn't allow it to happen, to do so.
What is your opinion on the bucket of rocks and bats the Pennsylvania School District uses?
Yeah, openly, I would say that we will not implement that type of interactions within our school district because, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful, if an intruder comes and the intruder has a weapon, the intruder has a gun, my bat's not going to do anything. My rock's not going to do anything. So, the question was posed to me, about a week ago, what about tasers for teacher? I have to be in a certain, proximity in order to tase you, and someone that's coming in with a rifle or a handgun, you're not going to be able to say, hey, time out, let me get close to you. It's just not going to happen. So, those are initiatives in theory that may sound good to give a teacher a bat. I mean, what happens if a kid takes a bat and then we got a situation that is unfortunate? So the answer to that is it's not sound practice, not best practice, and from my leadership, I will not ask teachers to do so or leaders to do so.
Do you consider mental health and suicide awareness a current issue in Clay County schools?
I think it's a current issue throughout the nation, without a doubt. We have more students that are being exposed to to suicidal thoughts, and we've got to find early indicators to help these students. And this is why we have the early warning indicator system now afforded to our teachers and to our administration that triangulates the attendance, the behavior, and the academics together and identify learners that may have some potential hardships. So this is why we have got to continue to expose our teachers and our educators and our administrators about youth health, mental first aid, youth first aid mental health in order so they can have a greater awareness of indicators in this district. The answer is yes, it's here. You've seen there's been a pattern in Clay County. There was years ago in the south of Clay County, and then we've had a couple recently in centralized in Clay County. So it's everywhere. It's not only here, and we hope that we can maximize the funding we are given from the state, the $900,000, to have greater extension to kids. Yes, ma'am. Anything from Facebook?
Yeah, question about upgrades to facilities for safety and security.
Yeah, so right now Dr. want to talk about security and safety.
Repeat the question, nobody can hear it. Oh, sorry.
So, I got you.
Okay.
So the question was about, what are we doing for safety and security of our schools relates to safety?
As the superintendent mentioned, we conducted a detailed needs assessment, myself and Mr. Harvey with the safety office, as well as Mr. Hans, the director of maintenance of operations, and Mr. Fossa, our project manager. We actually went out school by school to start looking at all of our facilities. Superintendent mentioned some of the security upgrades. Of course, I won't discuss in public what all those are, just for safety and security issues. But I can tell you, camera surveillance is going to be increased, as well as security systems. Controlled access entry into the facilities is a school hardening project, as well as perimeter fencing. We've gone around and looked at this each site, both physically and virtually through Google Chrome, start looking at our plats of our property, determine what we can do to create a more secure environment. The superintendent mentioned that in the needs assessment that we actually conducted, actually it generated $282 million in facility needs right now. It's $282 million in needs. In the Ridgeview High School pattern alone, I just want you to know what that means for the schools that feed Ridgeview High. You're looking at $57,345,947.29. And apparently another bulb that I need to get for Mr.
It's
Greta.
probably $500 bulb right there.
But $57 million of the $282 million that we've identified in needs assessment is directly going to impact this feeder pattern. So we're looking at all these things for perimeter security, how to harden the facilities, where can we get the funding to do that. Hardening facilities, security systems, camera surveillance, controlled access and entry. And as the superintendent mentioned, one of the biggest challenges we have in operations and maintenance and planning is portable reduction. Portables were always should have always been a temporary strategy. He mentioned we have 981. We crunched one up at Middleburg. We have 981 portables, 720 of them are more than 20 years old. We have to start removing the portables. And regardless of people's philosophies, I've told this to the board, told it to everyone. Regardless of people's philosophies on permanent brick and mortar space versus relocatables, everybody agrees on one thing, and that is it's very difficult to secure a portable. No matter what you do. I mean, there's so many of them that we have. There's 65 portables right here. So out of the $57.3 million that I have slated for Ridgeview High School, I want you to think about the average age of the facilities. The average age of the facilities in this area is 34 years old when you talk about the feeder schools that feed. And I see Cornwell back there, shaking her head about the condition of the facility at Wilkinson. But I can assure you, with 538 classrooms and some of the upgrades that need to happen, if we're going to continue to compete and be relevant, superintendent, I respect him and the board's vision to elevate Clay. I have to excavate Clay right now because of the condition of the facilities and some of the things we're dealing with portables. So those are some of the issues we're dealing with security upgrades, but it takes a revenue stream. It takes a way to get that to happen. And one thing's for sure, every child in Clay County deserves the same relevant facilities as other school systems around us. And we're going to do what we can we're working with the county commission, the sheriff's office, and our school board to create the revenue streams needed to provide that protection.
Sorry, I had to do Facebook, I got blanks on. Any other questions we may have? Okay, I want to acknowledge, we have Miss Mary Bullis. She's here, a school board member. She's here with us tonight. Thank you for being here. She was out problem solving with Chief Stivers at the beginning of this. And also, I would be remiss if I did not highlight the awesome program that's ran by, I think, LaPierre, is that right? Did I say it right? She's such a rock star, and their students are so awesome with the culinary team around boss. I tell you, being around them, I would be so much better every single day for what the great work they did. So thank you for being here, and thank you for what you're doing this evening. On the way out, please make sure you get some type of goodies that you have. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, not a question, I just want to comment, I want to say thank you to you all for, number one, I'm retired Army, 20 years retired military, and I want to thank you, number one, for not arming teachers, because not to say that they're not capable individuals.
That's right.
But I just don't think weapons need to be given to everybody. I served 20 years in the Army, and I had to train every year to be qualified with my weapon, and I don't want to see weapons. I just don't think, I think teachers have enough, and I think that's way too much. So I want to applaud you guys for that. I also want to applaud you for what you guys are doing, as well as mental illness. Because my son attended a school in Alabama, and I hate to say it, but he had a counselor who literally acted like it was not an issue. So I'm grateful, and even as us as a society, I see athletes and singers and actors and people coming forward. Mental illness is a serious issue in our country, and I think it's been ignored way too long. So I applaud you guys for taking it seriously and doing things about that as well. So
Yes, ma'am.
thank you guys.
Thank you very much as well. Thank you. And then many thanks for Principal Segredo and her team for having us this evening. Thank you. And if you have any questions, reach out to us. And thank you for being here this evening. Have a good night.